Welcome again to another 10 Talk. My name is Nancy Latham. I'm from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And if you've been listening to our 10 Talks before, you know that usually I kind of have the luxury, which I love, of bantering back and forth and learning some great things from teachers. But if you watch the first part of this is a two-parter. This was a 10 Talk that I did on my own. And so if you haven't had a chance to go back and hear that first one where we really talked about content organization a little bit, that might be a good one to grab. But I hope there are some things that can kind of help you and maybe even motivate you in this one when we talk about ways to organize that content, or just not so much ways. There are people so much better at this than I am. There's great people out there and know how to use programs in incredible ways. But I do think thinking about organizing is important. And so just trying to get those great ideas. And we'd love to hear your great ideas and get them posted onto our website. So I'm going to screen share here. If you saw the last presentation, and I hope you did, we talked a lot about how to organize our instruction and kind of these things that we consider, what we can move content-wise from 100% from face-to-face to online, and then how do we do that? And we talked a lot about this 9 square. Remember, we talked about using all we know about good instruction: whole group, small group, individual instructional strategies, and then this continuum as well: independent, asynchronous kinds of learning activities, and synchronous, and where our content falls in this 9 square. I think as we know about good instruction, learners learn all these ways, no matter how old they are. They need to have experiences with the same content in all 3 areas. And it's the same with independent, asynchronous versus synchronous kinds of activities. So just like in our classrooms, whether we're hybrid or we're 100% face-to-face or 100% online, what we don't want to see is all of our instruction falling right here. We don't want to see the only instructional strategy we use is teacher directed, whole group, synchronous. That's all we're doing. That all of it is falling right here. We want to see our content duplicated and spread out across this 9 square in lots of different ways. So some things, to consider as we're doing that, and in the last 10 Talk, we talked about this as well, but thinking about how to protect engagement, energy, and connection. That's a huge ask. How to make sure there's no disparity in the experience based on student situations. So, we've got to think about the technology. We've got to accommodate that some technology may not be as stable as others when we're doing a lot of things with video and record. We may think lots of pictures and it loads. And I did some slides that kind of had a game board background, but it meant that it had multiple images in one slide. And if a student's technology wasn't, or their internet wasn't quite where it might be speed-wise, it was frustrating for them because it was taking longer to load. And so we figured out some ways to do that in a little bit better way. So just thinking about that any disparity in the experience, allowing students to customize the experience, making technology part of the experience, and hopefully we're going to talk in this presentation about how to eliminate any frustration that technology brings about. So, in the last one, I talked about content and how we spread that content out across those tools we have, and we try to increase engagement by doing that, and we really do a kind of an analysis of our content that way. This one's really talking about the old things we know about environment and room arrangement. If we want children to learn in small groups, do we have comfortable small group spaces with everything they need? If we want times of the day when we have whole group instruction, are there spaces and places for that to happen that are developmentally and age appropriate to accommodate them? If we want there to be time for individual work, are there places where they can quietly think and consider, and the tools they need to do that in our physical environment? For young children, that might be centers. Are there great centers that are equipped and inviting and that they will go to, and we're learning, the learning continues and that learning happens? So just as all that thought that's put into our physical room arrangement, our environment to meet them where they are and eliminate frustration and hopefully eliminate behavior kinds of issues. We have to think about that in our remote environment. And so some things to think about, you know, when you're thinking about how you're going to deliver remote content and the platform, keeping navigation as simple and clean and age appropriate. Sometimes, you know, it's just like in the physical classroom, too much is too much. Too much stimuli is just too much stimuli. So thinking about how to keep that very clean and able to be navigated, able to load, depending on internet speed. Consider landing pages. I think having landing pages where, you know, students click here and they land and they have everything they need for what you're going to ask of them. Everything from the Zoom link or the Google Classroom link to get in, if there's a synchronous component, to every handout you'd like in front of them, to everything you'd like them to pre-read, the asynchronous pre-session, everything. You know, there's a landing page and there's everything I need for today. You can't say enough about linking everything, linking repeatedly, making sure they can always get back home. They can always get to this week's unit. They can get back to that page they were just on. They can get to the video. They can get to the Flipgrid. They can get to the Padlet, whatever make sure that you're, instead of sending them to other places, it's a very quick, it's a very simple link, and it links them. That takes a lot of work. It constantly takes a lot of checking too, but it's well worth it in the delivery. So all these things when you're thinking about external tools and providing navigational beacons. I love navigational beacons, and I'll show you some of those in a second, but I think again, this kind of clean, simple, this was a classroom landing page that I made this semester, and everything they needed for the week was right here. They clicked here, they got the module guide. They clicked here, they did the pre-session module. This was the link to our session meeting and what we were going to be talking about. This was these were independent activities they could choose to do. Every time they clicked on one of these, they were taken to a landing page with everything they needed for that activity. And you know, there was always a way to get back home to the week, and there was always a way to get to the next week, all that linking. As far as navigational beacons, I love those. I think, you know, with younger children, I probably would use some that were maybe a little more fun, but you know, basically it was something they could consistently count on, no matter in the course, if they're in an independent activity that they do by themselves, if they're in a landing page that's supposed to guide their small group, if they're in one that's going to guide our class meeting, or our pre-session module, pre-class module, whatever. If they see this link, for instance, they know there is some place for me to be. There's a meeting, a date, a time, an exact thing, a synchronous activity, and this is how I get there. If they see this, they know that there's something for me to watch, to independently watch. If they see this, they know there's something for me to read. There's something for me to download, something for me to read. And if they see this, that means there's an activity that I need to do. And I either am going to be turning it in, I'm going to be accountable to my group for it, or I'm going to be talking about it in our class meeting or our synchronous session. I think all of those kinds of these little things, and I would just love to hear your organizational tips. I'm sure you can blow that away. We would love to hear those and add those to our site, because I think, you know, it's like anything we do in the classroom or with learning, the better we get at it, the more complex and layered it becomes, but then the more essential organization is, because we don't want to frustrate the learner with technology or just logistical frustrations, when we could eliminate that, and we don't want to hurt engagement or any of that with that. So I hope this has helped. I hope you've got some good ideas. We'll have a list of top 10 that can kind of help you as well. And like I said, there's a place on the LearnAway site. I'd love to hear your great ideas. So check that out.